Hello, everyone. Welcome to Masters in Travel. Whitney here. This week, I've invited Kaytee Fisher to join me from Moxie and Forth as we've been having some marketing kind of conversations and topics that have come up. And something that I have been talking about in my own business, in other podcasts, I'm sure people have heard me talk about it with Brianna, but that I'm also hearing from other advisors is a desire to shift some of the inquiries and shift some of their book of business to a specific type of trip or to a specific destination or something specific that they would like to see shift within the inquiries and the trips that they're booking. And the desire is there. The how is a raging big question mark in most of our heads. And so I've brought in the marketing expert. Kaytee, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be back.
So this isn't like official or anything, but my observation in just the phases of travel advisory business ship that you go through is something like phase one looks something like get clients.
Yeah. Just figure it out.
Yeah. Just figure something out. Get somebody to trust you and hand over all of their free time and disposable income.
Yep.
Right?
Perfect.
Phase two is like, okay, I've got some folks now. We need to put some boundaries in place. Here's a link to my calendar. These are the destinations I plan or don't plan. General budget expectations or budget parameters look like this. I don't work 24/7. Then we start putting in the boundaries. And the phase that I'm currently in is like, okay, book of business is there. Repeat and referral is strong. New clients are still coming in. Boundaries are in place. And so inquiries are high quality. Mm-hmm. And also, for me specifically, safaris are currently 10 or 15% of my business. And I would like them to be 30% of my business. Now, we could fill in the blank with anything. It could be, I want more river cruises. It could be, I want more high school graduation bucket list trips. It could be, I want more Italy. It could be, I want more Peru. It could be, I want more anything, but it's generally a trip type, like cruise or safari, or it's a destination. And the big question mark is how? I don't have a problem getting new inquiries. Yeah. But I want more of a very specific type of inquiry. So I'm curious to know just high level, like as I describe this, what is your marketing brain saying?
Yeah. Okay. When we scheduled this podcast, one note I immediately made that I was like, oh, I get to say this to a whole audience. I hear often advisors like you who are like, I have a good book of business. I don't need to market at all, except now you absolutely do, because you want to start to pivot a little bit. And this is why consistent marketing, even through busy times, slow times, even when things are like, commissions are coming in and money's not a problem, I see advisors drop off. They're like, I don't need to market. I'm good. Until you need to pop back into inboxes to talk about a shift in your business. So
yes.
I just wanted to start with that.
Glad we got that off your chest. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. Yep. I definitely went through that phase of, I don't need this. Like, I can't even keep up with the inquiries coming in. So why do I need this? But that when I was in that phase, I was still trying to do marketing by myself.
Yeah.
Or like very minimal outsourcing. And then I was in the mud. I was in the crap. Yeah. When I was like, oh, okay, now I want to start attracting more new to me clients.
Yeah.
Like repeat referral is good, but now where am I going to find the new to me clients? And then I kind of had to like start from scratch again.
Yeah.
So if I would have just kept on and utilized the tools and the resources available to me, i.e. Moxie and Forth's bomb ass newsletters, I wouldn't have had to like start over and come up with a strategy and figure out, and hire someone to do it. Like it would have been much easier if I just like kept it more consistent start to finish. So I fully agree with you.
And that's all marketing too. Like it's with everything in life, really. If you fall out of the habit, it is so much harder to get started. So I would say the first thing is that obviously most advisors right now, their marketing reflects their current business. And that makes sense. You have bookings coming in, you've got clients traveling. It's very easy to like pull marketing content from that. And so if you want to start to shift, I'm just going to use your example of safaris. I think a lot of people think you can just like throw a picture of a giraffe up on Instagram and go, I book safaris now. And then like that, and that's
not
that.
enough, Kaytee.
No, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to tell
but
everybody.
The giraffe is so cute.
Yeah. And it's like, I have to take my own advice sometimes because I just rolled out a few new services and it's been crickets. And I'm like, oh, that's right. Because I have to market them because you have to like rotate through the different things that you offer. So I always tell advisors that's like the blessing and the curse of being a small business owner is that like, if you're anxious about marketing yourself and putting yourself out there, the good news is nobody's paying attention. But the bad news is nobody's paying attention. So you have to repeat yourself over and over and over again. Because, from the angle of email marketing at least, but also social media, your marketing trains your audience on who you are, what you sell, and who you sell it to. So you can't just say something once and expect people to be like, oh, okay. Especially if you're making a big change. So like I know of a few advisors, their bread and butter is sun and sand, all inclusive. And now they are wanting to pivot to Europe, river cruises, safari. And so that is going to take a little bit more effort to get your audience to kind of follow you on that journey.
Now, okay, on that topic, that audience might not be the right audience.
Yeah, that part too. So you're going to start to attract other people. So you have to think about like, and this is where I could get really in the weeds with segmentation and email marketing and all of that.
Yeah.
But you might also risk, turning off part of your audience if you start talking about something completely new. Maybe they were there for the all-inclusive deals that you were promoting, and now you're talking about $25,000 safaris. So it is definitely going to be something you have to do slowly and gradually over time.
So okay, assuming somebody wants to make this drastic of a shift, like mine is not so drastic because there might be a part of my email list that's just not interested in safari, and that's okay. But it's not, you're used to going to a beach for 7 days and relaxing, and now I want you to go to an entirely different continent on an entirely different trip style and spend 3x. So mine's a little bit more of like a nudge, I guess. If somebody is looking for something drastic and it's not, I'm no longer doing sun and sand. I now want to do, like European vacations. But it's like, now I'm offering both.
Yeah.
Is the first step kind of just email your current mailing list that knows you for sun and sand to kind of let them know that the services are expanding? Or like at what do you ever recommend you might want to start from scratch?
I don't think you should have to start from scratch, but I do think it should be kind of like a mini announcement that, again, you're probably gonna have to send more than one, but you could do something like, a service update newsletter that you're here because I sell sun and sand, and I've worked with many of you to send you on spring break in Mexico or the Caribbean or whatever it may be. But I'm so excited that, maybe you just got back from a fam and you're like, I'm now going to be offering XYZ. And I'd love for you to come along with me to learn more about that and all of that. You could just send that. And then if people go, oof, no thanks, they can unsubscribe. But if you're being diligent about your email marketing, you can say, if you're only interested in all-inclusive vacations, then there's ways to set things up without getting too technical, where people can say, I don't want to hear about safaris, or I don't want to hear about river cruises. And they can opt out to a different segment in your email marketing. And then then what you could do is you are now maybe you're sending a Safari Saturdays newsletter only to people who want to receive it.
Okay.
So that would be a good way if you're making a major change to nurture everybody on your list who wants to be there, but make sure you're sending the right stuff to the right people.
Right. Okay. So that's really great support for like really big kind of pivots. If the pivot is not so extreme and it's more of kind of what I've described. So it could be something like I sell, like maybe I book 5 trips a year to Italy and I love Italy. I know Italy really well. I've got a solid partner there. Nobody says that about Italy. So let's say this more about Spain. No, nobody says I love Italy. I have a great partner there. We're all like, well, so let's say Spain. It's
Takes me
Spain.
back.
I
Yeah.
plan I book 5 trips a year to Spain, but I really like to book 15 because like it just, helps me optimize. I've got my dining guides, I've got my Travelify library items, I've got everything in set. And it
Yeah.
actually increases profitability if I sell Spain more because I've got this down and everything's in luck. So if somebody's wanting to do more of a nudge like this, and it's not a super drastic nudge, a photo of some tapas is not going to do it based on what you shared previously. So what is going to do, like how are we going to, like what questions should we ask? What things should we think about to start just moving the needle in like, we're not going all the way to I only plan Spain.
Yeah.
But we are going to like, I would like to triple my Spain business in the next, like also what time frame should we really be considering? Because marketing, messaging and action take time. There's like 6 questions in one. Sorry.
No, I think it's important to remember that like shifting your marketing messaging it's a gradual shift. It's not a light switch. You're not just like suddenly, and so I think it can be done, especially, and this is why I talk about doing weekly newsletters. It makes it so much easier to fit all the content in that you want to fit in a calendar year. Inside my DIY subscription in the last few months, I think it was maybe at the end of the year, I created a template for advisors to use for this exact reason, where they could show off like their 2026 wish list of what they want to book. And I think that's like a really fun way to just starting to like sneak it in. I don't think if you're pivoting just a little bit, if you're expanding your offers or starting to book other destinations, I don't think it needs to be this big hoopla, like this big announcement to your list, especially if like, I know Whitney, you book like a lot of Japan. That's kind of an exotic destination. So safari feels like it fits right in. So if you just start to infuse it a little bit more into your marketing as like an introduction, I think like something like, oh, here's what I'd love to book, this coming spring or this fall or whatever. You could just do a roundup like that to softly launch it, I guess you could say. But then moving forward, I think I know this is really big on Instagram right now, and I think it could be really useful in newsletters, is the idea or concept of a series where you do something like, for you could do like a safari series of, and not just like a feature of a hotel or something like that, but more of like a storytelling. What a day on safari looks like, what surprised you most the first time you went on safari, first time mistakes. Like, I mean, packing for safari is wild. So like, that's an idea. So you could do this like, series type thing so that your audience is being exposed to it week after week for a few weeks in a row. Because the more you talk about something, the more that they will associate it with you. When I was an advisor, I booked a lot of Hawaii and Costa Rica, like tropical, warm, lush places. And then all of a sudden, I did start getting inquiries without marketing it. I think occasionally we all get like an inquiry out of left field, but I started to get inquiries for Europe, and I had never booked anything in Europe. And so I was like, well, here we go. So then I was like, well, I do want this to be part of my book of business. So I started to market like, oh, I just received an inquiry for Croatia. So it was like a soft launch. And then I just started to infuse it into my marketing. I will say it's going to take time. The number of times I mention something in my marketing before it gets any traction is wild because people just have short attention spans right now.
So 2 questions on kind of the timing and the volume. So if we think about a series, like maybe this could go on over 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something, either in newsletters or on social media. Are we posting any other things in between? Or is it like, if you see my Instagram for the next 3 weeks, this is all I'm talking about?
Yeah. I think you can mix other stuff in. When I market heavily for something, I mix other stuff in. I think if you only talk about one thing, people start to tune you out. And so I think, marketing like focusing on that one thing primarily, but then infusing other. I'm just a big fan of personal marketing and like authenticity and all that. So, instead of like directly talking about safaris, for example, you could work in like, more generic travel stuff, any
Right.
TSA updates, things like that.
Because this has kind of been my concern of like, I want to shift to Safari, so I need to talk about Safari more often. But like, there are some people on my list who are not interested in Safari, just like point blank. And they've told me like, that's just not something that
Yeah.
I feel like I need to do. And that's fine. I mean, I don't understand it, but that's fine.
Yeah. Don't get it at all.
My dad is one of them. I'm just like, I don't, what? You don't, what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
So I have been like, I know that I don't want to go all the way to the extreme of like, okay, the next 3 months is Safari, 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 only Safari, because I don't want to alienate people. And like you mentioned, I don't want them to tune me out and be like, okay, this is all she's talking about.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it feels like a fine balance to be like one post of a giraffe, not enough.
Yeah.
All Safari, only Safari for the next 3 weeks on Instagram, or the next 3 months on Instagram, or I mean, next 3 months on newsletter, probably a little much.
Yeah.
So more than usual, weave in some other topics. But like, what is a, like if you had to think about your whole year of content, what percentage of that content do you think needs to be the thing that you want to move the needle on?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I don't know if I have a hard and fast number. I think it's just a balance of how you're mentioning it. So obviously having a newsletter that is like from top to bottom, all about safari or all about river cruises, that should appear at least once a month. But then you could work it in a more adjacent way in your other weekly newsletters. So for example, let's say you send out a weekly newsletter. I'm a big fan of at least once a month sending out a newsletter of what to book now. If within that what to book now newsletter, you're talking about, okay, right now is a good time to start thinking, we're in March. So Oktoberfest in Germany, that you want to start thinking about that now. But then you could start also thinking about safari, like you could work it into a list where it's like, you're mentioning it. People are aware that you mentioned safari or you mentioned river cruising or whatever it may be. But then maybe the following week you do the top 5 mistakes people make when they book their first safari. So I would like rotate it with other more general content. And then if you are going to do like a series, that's when if I was working with an advisor and they were like, I want to talk about safari every week for the next 4 to 6 weeks, there would be a plan leading up to that of like, well, let's give your audience a chance to opt out. So we're only sending safari content to the audience that wants to hear it. This is the strategy that I use when I know I'm about to go into a heavy promotional period. I just did this with the program that I host twice a year. I add like a PS to my normal newsletter and I say, hey, by the way, I'm about to be bombarding your inbox with promotional, stuff about this topic. If this is not your season, click here to opt out. And on the back end in my email marketing system, it adds them to a segment where they say, I don't want that. And when I send out the newsletter that they don't want to hear, I make sure I exclude that segment.
Got it.
So I don't know if it's necessarily like how long should you do that for, but rather like what audience, like selecting the audience you're going to send it to.
So it seems like there's 2 options. Like either option 1 is a more, let's say like soft sell, less intense of like, you're just going to see and hear about safari at a higher percentage over the next year compared to other topics, right? Option 1. Option 2 is something more intense, more like a series, offering people to say, I'm really not interested in this. If I came to you and I said, over the next 12 to 18 months, I would like to increase my river cruise business from, 15% of my business to 40% of my business, which means, however many trips you're booking. I book 5 per year. I want to book 20 per year.
Yeah.
Between those 2 options, like how would you decide or how would you guide advisors to kind of decide, is this a series? Is this just an increase in content on this topic? Like how would you decide which is the best approach, or is it a both and?
I think it really depends on their goals. If someone's like, no, I really am like, I'm rebranding, my whole website's going to look like safari stuff. Like if it was going to be like a hard pivot and we need to start seeing safari bookings come in, then I would be like, well, then we're going to go all in. But I think if it's more of just you want to build awareness, then you would start working it into your like weekly rotation. I'm also a big fan of like, it sounds so simple, but it's such an overlooked strategy, adding a PS to your normal newsletter. So like maybe you're talking about like, oh, like maybe the newsletter is 5 inquiries that landed in my inbox this week, and you're just like showcasing what people are asking for.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of your email, look it up, everybody. Google it. A PS is very, very good for like that extra engagement. You can say, PS, if you didn't know, if you missed it, I also now book whatever. If you're curious about river cruising, hit reply and I'll share more. And it's just like a soft little like, hey, reminder. But I also would say that those 2 options we just talked about, I would say there's almost a third option as well, that you go all in on this new niche or destination that you want to sell. You create a lead magnet around it so you can start building a specific segment in your email list that you then send a newsletter just about that topic to. So I worked with an advisor last year who really wanted to focus more on cruises, but she didn't want to disrupt her normal weekly newsletter. So she started building a separate segment in her email list for her. I think she called it Setting Sail Saturdays. And it was a separate newsletter that went out on Saturdays to that segment. So that would be a third option if you really wanted to be intentional about building an audience that wants to hear about that topic. And that's what I love about marketing is there's a bunch of different ways to approach the same problem, just depending on what your goal is and how quickly you want to reach that goal.
Do you feel that of those 3 strategies that we've just kind of outlined, that one of them is like intense, quicker results, one of them is like slow and steady? Is that kind of how you think about those? Like,
yeah, I think so.
So like a series. So I think that the 2 intense ones is like a lead magnet leading to an ongoing newsletter that is going to continue. You are now getting a weekly or a bi-weekly. I know you love weekly newsletters on this topic only. Like you are clearly interested in this.
Yeah.
The second is intense, but a series. Like it's going to go on for 6 weeks and then it's going to end.
Yeah. So that one would be obviously, if an advisor wanted that, I like as the data nerd that I am, I would go in and look to see like, well, how consistent have you been prior to this? If you've been consistently sending a newsletter and you have a really engaged list, you have good open rates, good engagement, then like a series might work. Yeah, you'll inevitably lose a few subscribers, but if you give them a proper heads up that like, oh, I'm so excited in the month of March, I'm going to be talking all about this topic. I think that's a really great way to build very fast awareness. And then you go back to your regularly scheduled content, but continue to mix in this new topic. So I think in order to execute that, you need to have a really healthy email list. Otherwise, if you're only emailing like here and there and it's kind of spotty and people already don't really know what you're talking about, if suddenly you're just blasting their inboxes with one topic, I think you're going to lose a lot of traction. So yeah, it really depends on what the advisor's been doing marketing wise as well.
So I know that this is not the right reaction, but my initial knee-jerk reaction to starting a whole second newsletter, like Safari Saturday, Setting Sail Sunday, whatever it was, that's very clever, is like, oh God, do I have enough content for like a weekly Safari email? Like that seems intense. I think after 8 weeks, I'm going to run out of things to say.
Yeah. Or you could do a monthly one.
I was going to, will you allow monthly, Kaytee?
Yes.
Because like
if you're already sending a weekly newsletter, like a general, you're rotating through topics, but then once a month you're like, I'm going all in. I'm going to send like maybe a slightly longer newsletter that highlights a blog you just wrote or something like that. Then I will give my blessing for a monthly newsletter on that one.
Okay. So along those lines of like, if it's weekly or if it's monthly, like, do I have enough content in this very niche topic? I know a niche topic is better than a broad topic. And also we have to have enough content to continually talking about that thing all the time. So a destination seems good. Like I could talk about one destination quite a bit, I think.
Yeah. Especially when you look at it from like the destination in the context of different types of travelers, different styles
different
of
seasons,
traveling,
different itineraries, favorite boutique hotels, favorite luxury hotels,
questions that you're
10
receiving.
days, 14 days. Like, I feel like you could go, like, I feel like you could do that for days. Is cruising is pretty broad, actually. Like, you could do that a lot.
So much content for cruising.
That might actually not be niched enough. You might want to, I
like
don't
what
know.
kind of cruising? Like maybe that might be one where you could do a weekly series on
you probably
different
could,
types of cruising.
or be more specific to say, like, we're going to be talking about like these types of cruise lines, you know, like the or expedition cruising versus, you know, luxury cruising, or like a specific like Caribbean cruising versus Mediterranean cruising. I don't know. I feel like cruising is already quite broad. Okay. All of this sounds. Go ahead.
I want to say too, to circle back to what you asked a few minutes ago on like how long should we expect that this like introduction of a new topic should take. I always tell people to expect it to take longer than you would think, just because of what we're marketing. So in travel, we're like, if all of a sudden you're asking people who are used to your sun and sand, you know, maybe $7,500 budget type of trip, now you're like, hey, what about safari? It's $25K. It's like, that's going to take people, they might be like interested, but then they gotta warm up to it and all of that. So I think it also depends on what you're promoting, like what kind of financial commitment, time commitment. But at the end of the day, consistent visibility has to happen first before the demand appears. So I think that's where like, see a lot of advisors get frustrated that like, well, I marketed it a few times and nothing happened. I'm like, yeah, people just have the shortest attention spans. So you just have to, and that's why I think it is, whenever I hear like, well, I don't know if I have enough content, I'm like, you actually have plenty, because you can just repeat yourself over and over and over again. And it actually strengthens your message, and it makes it easier to create more content.
Yes. So. This all sounds great. Can somebody help me do this?
I can. Yeah.
Tell me how you can help me, because I like coming up first. The difficult part is like being able to clearly articulate the goal. Like, not only do I want to increase safari, I really want to increase it up to like 30% of my business. Like very specific, like what are we aiming for? How are we measuring success? Like step one, not everybody is even able to do that. So we need that first. Then everything that you shared is like, theoretically, the strategy sounds great. I feel like I'm leaning into just increase the amount of safari content that I'm sharing over a year, and maybe start an additional kind of newsletter that's separate for a safari segment. But like, I can't take that on. So like, I would need some sort of support. And so like, we can kind of get through step 2. Step 3 is like, get it done. Are you going to help us do this?
I can. Yeah. And so talking about marketing yourself, I have a new service that's been sitting on my website, and I haven't marketed it because I've been busy. So I was not taking my own advice, but so and like my husband was like, has anyone applied for that yet? I'm like, a few people, but I haven't made it known because I was already so busy. But I'm super excited about it. It's called the Newsletter Lab, and it's a high-level strategy service. So what you would do is each month, it requires a 3-month commitment, because you're going to see results, you know, the longer you stick with it. But, you know, as advisors, we have so much content. We have questions we're getting asked. You know, we're having conversations on intake calls. We have our own personal experiences too. So what I do is I send this questionnaire out, and you fill it out, and you tell me what's going on with your life, what's going on with your business, what are you hoping to see in your content this month. And I take all that and I tie it together into a strategy. Your calls to action. What story are we telling? How are we pivoting to the point? What is like the PS going to be? What's the subject line going to be? And I hand you this blueprint, and then you write it. So I don't do any of the writing, but I literally give you the blueprint. So all you have to do is sit down and be like, okay, I'm starting with this story that Kaytee has outlined, because she got it from my questionnaire. And then we're going to pivot. And my favorite part is that I don't just hand this strategy to you. I have a private Slack channel for every client who does this. So you can be like, hey, can you look at this? Because sometimes we just need someone to look at our business. Like I look at my business too long, and I'm like, I don't even know what's going on. And then you get fresh eyes on it, and you're like, oh, got it. So, so this allows someone with a fresh set of eyes to look at your business. What conversations are you having with clients, and pull content out of those day-to-day mundane tasks and conversations, and turn it into content.
And so when you deliver the strategy, is it like, here's the content for the next month, or is it longer than that, or how does it work?
So it's for this is built for people who want to do the weekly newsletter. So it's 4 weeks of content. Okay. And then we rinse and repeat. And then within a 3-month contract, if you are doing a heavy promotional period, it includes 8 additional like promotional emails that I'll outline for you. Okay. So if you're like filling a group trip, or if you're getting ready to announce something big, I would then build those for you as well. And it just helps advisors take all this like normal content that they know they have and turn it into stories. Yeah. Because stories are what convert like the best, because people connect with the emotional side of marketing, not like, oh, Aubert's just having a sale. Nobody's going to connect with that. So leaning into the stories that all of us have, even if it's something like, oh, I was at the dentist the other day and someone asked a weird question, I can turn that into content. So yes, you can. You know, yeah. So
I read it every week. Like, she did that.
I can turn anything into content. And so this service was developed to help advisors kind of get out of their own way and send more personable newsletters that actually connect. And when they connect, they eventually turn into sales.
So if we're doing like the month to month and there's also a promotional period, are those extra 8 emails part of like that month's content, or is it's being offered totally separately?
It would be like woven into it, depending on what your goal is, what you're doing. So even when I'm in a heavy promotional period, I stick with my weekly Monday newsletter, and then I just fit the promotion in around it. And so basically
it's like adding on, or it's okay.
Yeah, it would be like, okay, if you're getting ready to fill a group trip and announce it or something like that, here are the 8 additional sales emails you're going to send. So these are more sales heavy as opposed to your weekly newsletter touch point. And I would outline them for you and tell you when to send them. Okay. So, and I think that also helps alleviate, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm afraid to send more than 1 a week. When I am in a heavy sales period, I know I'm going to lose people from my list, but they were never going to buy from me anyway. And there are ways around that with proper segmentation and all of that. So I assist with that as well.
Okay. Amazing. This is super helpful to just kind of understand how to identify some sort of segment, client mix, transition that we want to see. I assume you're going to say that we should have one of these goals in mind, right? Instead of saying, I want to increase safaris and I also want to plan more Italy and I also want to do more cruises. Like, we're probably focusing on one for a year, or
I would
6 months to a year.
I always tell people, just like dip your toe in, get really good at marketing one thing, get good at marketing it consistently. Because that's another problem I see, is people get really excited, especially after a FAM. They want to talk about that destination, but like then they like do it they like burn themselves out. They're like, I sent 6 emails about whatever safari, and now I'm not going to send another newsletter for 6 months until my next FAM. Right. And it's like, well, that's not going to work either. So, but yeah, it's one of those things that, like, when people present a bunch of information to me and they go, I don't know how to make this all fit together. Sometimes you just have to like walk away and like think about it from a storytelling angle. And I swear it makes content creation so much easier when you're not leading from like a place of almost like scarcity or panic. Have a goal in mind, remain consistent, and weave in storytelling. And it makes it so much easier. So that's what this service was created to do.
I love it. How can we learn more about this service?
You can go on my website and click on the services tab, and it's called the Newsletter Lab. And there's a whole page, and I'm also an open book if people want to DM me and see if it's the right fit for them. So it's really good for an advisor that like yourself, who has a robust book of business and is looking for a higher level strategy, who knows who they're speaking to, and then is looking to pivot just a little bit. It's really made for advisors who are more tenured, more settled in their business. So yeah,
amazing.
I'm super excited about it.
Kaytee, thank you so much. I really appreciate you diving into this topic with me today. And I
Thank
always
you.
learn so much from you. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.